You're listening to the Baha'i World News Service.
In this episode, we hear from Varka Kadem, member of the Board of Counselors in Europe.
Something else that's been happening, which has been quite profound, really, which is like a rising consciousness of the needs of the population.
Anissa Mazidian, a member of a Baha'i agency at the national level.
The idea that the welfare of the individual lies in the welfare of all.
And Stephen Agahi Murphy, also a member of a Baha'i agency at the national level.
As youth have started to see themselves as protagonists of social change, their own educational aspirations have started to rise.
About how young people across the country who are participating in Baha'i moral and spiritual educational programs are channeling their desire for the betterment of society towards various initiatives, such as artistic endeavors that provide hope, tending to the needs of those younger than themselves, and fostering interactions that enable people from diverse perspectives to find points of mutual understanding. From the Baha'i World News Service, this is In Conversation, a podcast series that explores the practical application of Baha'i principles to foster vibrant communities and contribute to social progress from the grassroots to the international level.
So a really wonderful opportunity we have to hear more about building vibrant communities in the United Kingdom and also learning more about social transformation. It'd be nice to explore more about these different areas. And of course, in the United Kingdom, there's a lot of different settings. There are rural settings, a lot of urban settings. There are many other kinds of environments, both in neighborhoods, workplaces, schools.
And I was thinking of a setting, which is actually it's a rural setting in the southwest of Scotland. There's only 500 people living in this village. There was already a very beautiful pattern of community life there. There was arts and crafts and music and are very much part of the culture already. And then there was one family who sort of returned to the village after many years of living abroad, and they really wanted to see how could they contribute to their community now? How could they both materially and spiritually contribute to its upliftment? And just through conversations, the mother of this family at the school gate, she'd previously worked as a theatre director, and many of the mothers were very excited by this, and they said, our community could really do with a community theatre. And so she thought, well, that would be an incredible way of being able to contribute to the community then. And so started this theatre group for young people in the village. But in order to also contribute to its upliftment, it's got a very particular focus, which is also how to leave everyone feeling uplifted and also with something to think about as they go away. So they've touched on various different themes, like environmental themes and the idea that the welfare of the individual lies in the welfare of all. And these youth who are participating have really found a voice through their participation in this theatre group, and it's attracted more and more young people. They were invited to a nearby town to perform and even got a mention in the Scottish Parliament for the efforts they've been making to transform their community. And beyond also the impact these productions have on the audience, it's actually been really transformative for those young people as well. Because of social media, many of the young people are really struggling, and young people's welfare is a big conversation in the community. So there's mental health problems like suicidal thoughts, depression, eating disorders among the young people. But through participating in this drama group and also other activities that have also emerged that are focused on moral education within the village and all the arts and crafts that have emerged as well, young people who've been suffering and struggling have begun to see themselves in a different light. They've experienced an enormous sense of well-being and happiness. I was thinking that actually all the talents of the community have been really enriching this. All the young people, they're playing the ukulele together, the guitar. They've recently learned how to play a Peruvian drum called the cajon. And they've built them themselves, drawing on the woodwork talents within the village. Many people in the village are seeing actually transformative impact of this process that has emerged. And, you know, local religious leaders are encouraging the effort, and parents as well. So it's been really beautiful to see also how in this rural setting, it's beginning to have this impact as well on the lives of the young people and the population as a whole.
Yeah, it's very beautiful, both of these examples, just hearing also how you know, there's an orientation towards seeing talents and capacities in people, and you really get a sense of these havens, like it's a haven and refuge for a lot of people. I was thinking of an example in Manchester. Actually, there's an urban neighborhood where there's just a group of friends who thought of offering spaces for children and youth between the ages of 12 and 15 that could come together to explore different ideas. At the heart of it was really a lot of friendship, and through this friendship, more and more families were involved. And I think also a lot of the, you know, similar to the reality you described in the north of England, some of the families are newcomers to the country. They've come relatively recently, or maybe, you know, in the past 5-10 years. But I think through this, the children and the youth really gained a lot of confidence. And I think the parents could also see this rise in confidence among their children. There's an example of one mother, actually, in this particular neighborhood, the team then got in contact with a local sports center. They had a lot of collaboration with them. The sports center came to begin to understand what these friends were doing. They were inspired by it. Of course, at the heart of, they're inspired by the revelation of Baha'u'llah and its role in contributing to social transformation. But then over time, there are other efforts from the government, including the health services, and there's an initiative called the Health Champions by the government within that particular area. They had a number of opportunities for more of the local population to learn more about healthy habits. And one of the mothers, I think through her own daughter's participation in the program, became a lot more confident. She then took part in classes to gain a greater command of the English language. And then through that, she started to participate in this health initiative. And then she herself seems to be now also quite eager and interested to also support the actual classes, which are seeing in everyone capacity. So I think all of these efforts around this have really been a way to see found that capacity.
I think it seems that this idea that, you know, the true nobility of every human being, it's somehow fostering a set of relationships, right, between individuals, institutions, within, you know, communities, that somehow is helping us to envision really what kind of settings can we live in that really contribute to both spiritual and material prosperity, and also help us to remove obstacles that are blocking progress. And I think one, like you say, Varga, one of the main kind of areas, I think, that as youth have started to see themselves as promoters of well-being, as protagonists of social change, that also their own consciousness in terms of their own educational aspirations has started to rise. So I think we see in a number of different settings now this aspiration to think about how is it that I can pursue a professional career, or how is it that I can pursue my studies in a way that is not only to make a means for my life, but also contributes to the betterment of the world. And so in some small settings, there's been very practical expressions of this idea, you know, for children and junior youth who have struggled with schooling, with formal schooling, you know, both in terms of their attendance at school, but then also in terms of like being able to keep up with the work. I think what these youth have noticed is actually having this kind of mentor, this supporter, you know, this like someone who's able to really think about their well-being, both spiritually and materially, and being able to support them in very practical ways. So I think we see in a number of settings some homework clubs that are emerging, you know, that provides this practical support for kind of 12, 13, 14-year-olds, and many other ways, I think, in which this is happening. But I'm not sure if this is something also that you've seen in the UK, you know.
I suppose because in many of the neighbourhoods across the UK, there are older youth who are really trying to engage younger youth in programmes for their moral education. These moral educational programmes, they naturally centre around like courses and books and stories and so on. And in that context, the youth are really seeing that that young people struggle in different ways with their education. They don't really want to sit and look at a book or read a story. And so much of their potential comes from being able to learn that this is a real barrier for their progress in their lives in general. Many young people really lack confidence to read in front of others. Complementary to these spaces for moral education in many communities, the youth have decided to also allow to create another space where young people can come and bring different questions they have related to their schooling, whether it be their homework or preparation for exams, or and I think it's quite significant that young people are, coming to these spaces, showing a desire to learn in these spaces, and it's really a space in which they're reforging their relationship to education, and they're having the chance to kind of, through their own free will and volition, ask the questions that they have and have the support of older youth who they look up to.
There's something about this thirst for knowledge, that's cultivated. As you start to think about your own sense of purpose, and that is both you're thinking about your own development, the inherent potentialities that every human being has, and really what it means to support them, but then also you're thinking about your responsibilities towards your community, towards your society, that somehow it seems to tap into a deeper root of motivation, where you start to think, actually, what is the kind of knowledge that will enable me to pursue that sense of purpose and also to contribute to the betterment of the world. And I think one other interesting dimension of this conversation has been increasingly it's not only children or youth who are thinking about this, but also parents and entire families. I was thinking of a recent family gathering that took place where the group of families who see each other every day. They support each other, they visit each other in one another's homes, they share prayers with one another. All of their children participate in moral education classes. There was a space for the parents to come together to think about what questions and concerns do they have, both for their own families, but also for their entire community. And they shared really insightful things about really what kind of concerns they have, when they have their youth, who kind of navigate different social forces. How can they support their youth effectively, or what kind of spaces they can create in their community. So I think we also are starting to see that parents themselves are also seeing themselves as having a role to contribute to the education, not only of their own children or of their family, but actually within the context of community life.
I was thinking of one group of youth in one sort of large urban centre in the UK, in London, where there's a group of youth who've been meeting every week to explore different themes related to the purpose of their lives and service to humanity. And they began thinking together, what could they do for the younger ones in the community to help them in some way? And being from the neighbourhood themselves, they reflected on what was it like when they were growing up in that neighbourhood. And one of the challenges that they faced was that after school, they'd come home and, their mom would be out working, for instance, and there wouldn't be, food available, or they might have some money, they'd be given some money to get some food, but then it would just be fast food or sweets and crisps from the shop. And so actually, and that really impacted their well-being in general. And it can impact your life in so many ways. So they began to think about, how do we help young people to learn how to make affordable, healthy meals for themselves, and to an educational sort of space. And so they started this club, really, where in collaboration with a food bank in the neighbourhood, they have different ingredients: potatoes, lentils, tuna, and all of this, and then they would think about simple meals. They'd create simple meals together. And what was really beautiful was that, in addition to just learning how to kind of create these prepare healthy meals for themselves, they also began to engage in conversations about their identity and about their purpose or their futures in life and their aspirations, and all these bigger questions that maybe the young people didn't already have someone to speak to about, and these older youth may not have seen themselves as having a role in relation to that. And then more and more youth have been able to sort of easily connect in with that process and see themselves in that way too, and learn how to support young people in that way as well. And I think because it's really a need within the community, the local council also has been interested to support in whatever way it can as well. And so it's really beautiful seeing how, from these relationships and reflecting on the needs of different generations, very impactful just initiatives and efforts have been able to emerge.
Yeah, it's really inspiring hearing these examples, because I was thinking that actually a lot of them emerge at the grassroots, and often they take on a bit of the characteristic of the grassroots. So if it's a group of youth who are meeting, they'll often use the space also for things they do in their leisure time. I was thinking also of one other example, which I think is coming up more and more in the context of the United Kingdom, especially in like urban settings, is just a discourse around purpose, and I think a challenge of like loneliness or people feeling isolated from each other. We're seeing in a number of other urban centers throughout the United Kingdom is spaces where also parents can come together and they can explore different topics. In this one example, for about 15 years, there are a group of friends that have been thinking about the education of children, bringing together children every week, or sometimes twice a week, and they're both involved in games and collaborative activities that can help them to collaborate together. And I remember one of the mothers describing it as a lifeline after many years. So she'd been participating for, I think, 5-10 years, and she said, "This is a lifeline for me." Because actually, as the trust and friendship developed more and more in these different groups of people that were coming together, all other kinds of questions were explored, like around family life and how to navigate school environments where maybe some of the children may at times have felt marginalized. And I think it's also been a space also to look at well-being generally, like the sense of well-being, sense of community, what it means to be part of a. So I think this idea of, like we've been talking about, this creation of these havens and refuges, which are very grassroots, and they become bigger, and then there's more conversation about these spaces. So then from one or two, it's become something which we're seeing as quite prevalent throughout the United Kingdom.
All of these examples are making me kind of think of this idea that somehow, all of these strands come together to kind of weave a fabric of a new society, and, these new patterns of community life that are based on these teachings of Baha'u'llah, this principle of oneness, or, this principle of justice, or the equality between women and men, for example. All of these patterns of community life are helping us to envision really what is possible, both for ourselves as individuals, but also for our communities and for our society. And one thing I've been struck by has been just how much enthusiasm there is from other local organizations, national organizations, other institutions who really have these common aspirations to contribute to the progress of society, but also have questions, have faced challenges. Just a few weeks ago, one youth who's been participating in the activities of the Baha'i community has just left school and he's in college. But he was thinking about his role in going back to his school, and, thinking so much about, the educational needs of the younger generation. And I want to learn about how I can build a relationship with my local school. So he, with a few friends, went to visit the deputy head of the school and was shown around the school, was welcomed back with a loving embrace. And then they sat down to think about really what's possible. What kind of common questions does this, local school have that also the activities within his community were also kind of trying to navigate and to contribute to. And there was this real concern, actually, that was expressed by the deputy head, that really when you look at 11, 12, 13-year-olds, that this is a really pivotal moment in their life. They're trying to also really learn about who they are and, how they position themselves in relation to others and what possibilities they have to live a meaningful life. So in that conversation, this youth was sharing with her just his own experiences of transformation, how he had changed in the last couple of years, and really how his reflection on this idea that, he was created noble has enabled him to kind of make new choices for his life. And he wanted to somehow think about his responsibility to helping the younger generation in that conversation. So now in these coming weeks, the school, in collaboration with the efforts of the Baha'i community, will offer the program for the spiritual empowerment of June youth during school hours, really, to really support that age group and to really learn about how to, realize new possibilities and to kind of foster that collaboration with these other local institutions and organizations.
In one community in inner city London, there were several youth who were trying to, offer the June Youth Spiritual Empowerment Program for the young people in the community and having different conversations with them about the idea of friendship and true friendship and just different themes and conversation. And one of the things they noticed was that whenever they would, have these conversations and they would think about, what would you do in a difficult situation? Like if someone, was unkind to you or, something happened, what would you do? And for many of the young people, the instinctive and obvious response was just, well, like, you're unkind back, or like if they hit you, you hit back. It's become quite a challenge for the community, and they were thinking, like, what could we do about this? Like, how can we help to change the conversation within the community to strengthen unity within the community, strengthen peace within the community? And there's one quote from the writings of Baha'u'llah that came to mind that they'd all sort of studied together, which was, when a thought of war comes, oppose it by a stronger thought of peace. A thought of hatred must be destroyed by a more powerful thought of love. And so they decided to hold a camp and a festival on this theme. And the whole camp was focused around this theme. And activities in different ways. Like I think at the beginning of the camp, they had a box and they asked people to sort of write a question they have or like a challenge that they have in relation to this theme, or and to put it in that box. And then they all shared the different things that had been put in that box. And they explored different strategies. Like, what do you do when you feel frustrated or angry? Like, how do you overcome it? What are some of the different things you can do?
Yeah, no, it's been so inspiring hearing all these different examples. I think what's been very clear is that through the revelation of Baha'u'llah and through many children, youth, adults being inspired to work with so many people, really to work with society in a lot of neighborhoods and localities, that actually something else has been happening, which has been quite profound, really, which is like a rising consciousness of the needs of the population, and both economic, social, cultural factors that may be holding humanity back. And I think really in these examples we've seen, whether it's been cases of antagonism between different groups of people, or lack of knowledge of information about where to go to have access to different kinds of services which are available, or other needs such as education, it seems quite clear that much has been learned about this, and really with many more people, and also increasingly with more and more institutions to build even more vibrant communities. So it's really exciting thinking about this prospect within the United Kingdom.
You've been listening to In Conversation, a podcast series from the Baha'i World News Service. For more podcasts and stories, visit bwns.org.